Welcome to this level 20 episode of Voodu Warlock 2023. It's been a couple months since I made the last episode. It is now November 15th. There's been a lot of things that have delayed this series. Hardcore 6, Night Revels, and from the last video to now, my mother passed. So it's been a challenging time, and I'm just now trying to pick this series back up. And at this point, I kind of almost feel like I should change it to the Voodu Warlock 2023 series, because at this point, I feel like I'm going to be lucky to debut it by the end of the year. But it is still my goal to do that, to actually have the trailer up and episode 1 up before the end of the year. We'll see what happens. All right, so I'm level 20. And since the last episode, we had update 57, which dropped. It introduced a new feature called imbues, which in a nutshell, imbues are just a new way that, as far as I can tell, SSG wants to sort of streamline the way that extra damage dice are added into things. I think it probably makes it easier for them to code them all in a similar fashion. And that does actually affect this build in a small way. So we'll cover that shortly. When I first logged in, I noticed that 3 of my stances and things were not toggled on. So it's just a good reminder that as an Enlightened Spirit, there are going to be some things like Celestial Spirit that you're going to need to toggle on, Aura of Courage, and the Spiritual Retribution, which is now an imbue, need to be toggled on. So you want to have those on your hotbar so you can clearly see and make sure that all that stuff is toggled on. Without that stuff, you're not going to be performing the way things are supposed to be performing. So it's been a while since I touched this character. And since the last episode, I don't think I did a whole lot. I did a couple epic gibbers runs, I think. Maybe ran like an epic Elite Von 5.6 or something. Yeah. Yeah, and there's gibbers. So let's take a look at the gear. Some things have changed. So I still got the Summoner Spectacles and the Coat of the Traveler. I've crafted level 20 bracers that have dodge 9, spell saves plus 8, parrying 4. In the colorless slot, I have Diamond of Intimidate 11. That's redundant with my Intimidate 15 here, but I might swap that out. Maybe I should be wearing the Crown of Snow for the freezing effect. I have a level 20 crafted Constitution and Dexterity ring. Sapphire of Good Luck plus 2. In the green slot, you can get a Sapphire of Good Luck plus 2 from a couple of sources. You can get that from the Giant Hold traders for the restored relics. Those are the epic relics you can get from the Slayer Zone, the epic Slayer Zone chests, as well as the epic quest chests. There are a set of traders in Giant Hold where you can get a whole bunch of very useful augments from. In fact, I think I'll put a link to a video that I have about acquiring augments. That's a really good topic for folks who are a little bit newer and you don't realize all the different places you can get augments from. I feel like I probably talked about that video and referenced it earlier in the series, but just in case, we'll include that video link in this video's description. You can also get a Sapphire Good Luck plus 2 from Lahar, the Epic Vendor, the Magma Golem, and the 12 for 20 tokens of the 12. Here we have the Flightfoot Greaves. That's the same as before. And the Dashing Gloves. The last episode was the quest where that comes from. This is new. This is a Kenneth crafted ring. It has Radiance, Lore, Sheltering, and Insightful Physical Sheltering on a couple of slots. Diamond of Vitality 20 and Diamond of Strength 6. It's good to have some strength in your gear set because you don't want to, if you're too weak, you can get encumbered very easily. And then that can slow you down. I still have the Mineral 2 Heroic Green Steel belt. I can't emphasize enough that if you don't already have green steel from, from the olden days, it's not worth going out of your way crafting this. So it's just something I had from the olden days, and there's certainly plenty of other options that you could use. I believe there's a really nice hit point belt that comes out of the Mimic Hunt event that has like all the different bonuses to like false life. I think it has like quality false life and insightful false life and regular false life and super false life. So that could be an option. And I just mentioned that one. It's not that that's the go-to belt. It's just that this was big hit points. It's 45 stacking hit points, and so I just wanted to mention that one belt. I can't remember what it's called from the Mimic Hunt event, which is a seasonal event because it also provides hit points. This is my Ghost Waking Cloak. That's where I'm getting Ghostly from. The Diamond Strength +6 there is redundant. This is new. This is the Epic Voice of the Master. You can get this from completing the Delirious Chain on either Heroic or Epic. It doesn't matter. You can get a choice of either the Heroic or Epic Voice of the Master. They're both guaranteed on the end reward list from either doing Delirious on Heroic or Epic difficulty. This is the only artifact in the game that is lower than level 29. It is level 20, and is the only artifact in the game that's bound to account. Because it's bound to account, I chose to augment it up and add a filigree that would have universal appeal, so that no matter what build I was doing, it would have some value. So for example, things like Vitality, which is redundant from gear set that I already have, or Wizardry. I like to play casters, healers, and resistance. Those things are going to benefit like any build that I do. And then in the filigree slot, I have the dual filigree that you get with the Threads of Fate that come from endgame raids. And this is the rare version. And this has 20 healing amplification. Because it's the rare version, it has 4 MRR on top of that. So healing amplification, MRR, going to be valuable for no matter what build that I do. So instead of having a bunch of different Epic Voice of the Masters for different builds, I decided to go with make one generic one that could be valuable to use at level 20 on basically any build that I wanted to do. That does have good luck +3, making the good luck +2 that I have slotted irrelevant. Those are both a luck bonus, so only the higher of the two applies. Striding 30% is also redundant. And then I've got the Heroic Inspiration, but that's redundant because I have a Master's Gift somewhere. I thought I had a Master's Gift slotted up somewhere. And I still have this this helm that has Intimidate, Spell Focus, Mastery, and Insightful Magical Sheltering crafted. The good luck +1 is redundant. And this is a craftable, same as before. Spell save 6, Charisma 8, Insightful Charisma 3. I certainly could recraft or craft a level 20 version of that with slightly higher Charisma and Insightful Charisma, but I'm too lazy to bother. It doesn't matter for the purposes of what I typically do when I get to this level range. Okay. So maybe that is my only source. I didn't notice a Master's Gift elsewhere in any event. I am also using an Epic Scepter of Radiance. This is something that you can get from a trader in Keep on the Borderlands. There's one for every different kind of spell power. And it just requires I forget what they're called, like alloys or ingots or something like that you get from the chests out in Epic Keep on the Borderlands. It's really cheap and easy to get. So it has big Radiance, big Insightful Radiance, and Radiance Lore. Some of those stats are redundant with other gear. Insightful Wizardry 97. I have a Ruby of Devotion to help my healing spell power. And then I don't have it fully decked out as a sentient weapon. Let's take a little bit closer look at that. Well, actually, maybe this view is better. I'm going to click on it, hit the gears, examine, and lock it. So if I didn't discuss this already, when you want to examine a piece of gear, and you don't want to have to sit there and hover over it to keep it up, you notice how when I move off, you don't see it anymore. But if you click the item and then click the gears and examine, it'll bring up the box and you hit the little lock button and it'll keep it there and I can click on other things. And I can even do side by sides. What if I had another scepter that I wanted to compare side by side? You could click on that other item, hit examine, hit lock, and now I can do a side by side, for example. So if you had something that was super long that was going off your screen and it was scrolling down, and that can be frustrating, sitting there waiting for it to scroll down, you can just do this and then you'll be able to freely scroll. So I have a 5-piece coalesced magic. One of the filigrees intelligence doesn't really do anything for me, but I wanted the 5-piece set because it give me 30 universal spell power. And then I have a Keeper of Curse. Light spell power is 9 more light spell power and plus 4 universal spell power. And then 1 Dragon Soul gives me 10 universal spell power. By no means am I suggesting that this is optimal. This is definitely something I made up a while back. And for purposes of what I do at this level range, which is typically just go out to King's Forest, farm out Grim Disturbance, which is an infinite Slayer spawn, if you're not familiar with that, or how to efficiently farm out Grim Disturbance, I will link a video in the description that I have that shows how to farm it out. But that's a quick way to go right to level 22. Usually when I get to level 20, my goal is to just race to 29 as fast as possible, mostly doing Slayers and other quick XP. And then once I get to 29, I've got most of my endgame gear and I can start doing Legendary Reaper questing. As mentioned previously, the Reaper XP available in Legendary questing is so disproportionately huge compared to anything up to that point that, like I said, when I get to 20, I just want to get to 29 as fast as possible to get that big Reaper. So epics are kind of a dead space for me. And since I'm just doing mostly Slayers and very easy difficulty content, like things like R1, I'd be doing R1 epic leveling dailies, the big epic XP quests, Von 3-4, Whiz King, Offering of Blood, Gibbers, big fast XP. There's others as well, but you can do whatever your favorites are. So I usually do that, that kind of stuff once I get to about 23. In any event, in each one of these epic episodes, I will be doing questing, something out of my normal routine, but I'll also be discussing what the normal routine. And again, my normal routine at 20 is just to hit the fast, efficient XP, farming out Slayers at Grim Disturbance with the 200% XP pot in the King's Forest. So because I'm doing low difficulty content, I actually have a weapon in my hand that's more like DPS focused. And we'll change to more defensive focused stuff once we get to our endgame setup. Enhancements, I don't remember what I filled out for my last few points from the last episode. In any event, this is the endgame setup for enhancements. One change because of Update 57 is Spiritual Retribution is no longer a 3-point investment to max it out. It used to be tiered. You could spend 1, 2, or 3 points in there to give you extra damage dice. Now it's an imbue. It only costs 2 action points, freeing up an action point. That imbue is something that has to be toggled on, so make sure you drag it into your hotbar and you activate it. And that gives you your extra 1d6 light damage that scales with spell power. And that does affect your Eldritch Blast and Burst. With my extra point, I just tossed it in here into Brutal Spellcasting, giving me some additional threat generation with my spells so that, burst and blast and so on. Whether or not I'll keep that there, I could have put it in saves. I didn't think too hard about it. Reaper points haven't changed. This won't become available till next level, as well as Tier 4. Still 90 points spent. Favor. One favor reward for 1750 is a +2 tome of your choice. That's why I decided to start here in the harbor. And I don't need any +2 tomes, but I thought I would grab it as part of this video to show you what you can do with unwanted tomes. Just in case you're not familiar, you can go to a crafting hall and you can go to the trader and you can trade unwanted tomes up to +5. You click I would like to trade essences when you talk to her. And you drag your unwanted up to +5 ability or skill tomes. So this is a perfect example. It's bound to character. I can't pass it to another tune. I can't sell it because it's bound. So might as well toss it in there and get some purified Eberron Dragon shards out of it. Those are the kinds of Eberron Dragon shards that are used in some Caneth crafting recipes. Even if you're not a Caneth crafter, I would recommend, just burning up your unwanted tomes that way. I mean, it's better than just throwing them out. It only takes up one spot in your bag. And then for level 20, of course, I went up in Constitution every level. Where do my skill points end up? So I maxed out balance cross-class skill, so 11 ranks the best I can do. I didn't get concentration maxed out. I didn't have quite enough skill points to max that out, or spellcraft, so I kind of hosed myself a little bit there. It's not a big deal. And then I only had 3 points in use magic device, point and tumble. And I didn't have any extra points to put anywhere else. I was really, really short on skill points this life, but that's okay. I got Intimidate maxed out. My concentration is close to max, and my balance is maxed. Take a look at the character sheet, where things stand. And that's unraged. As soon as I rage, my con and hit points will go up. Alright, for this episode, like I said, I normally would just go out and farm my 7,500 Slayers in the King's Forest. And I would get that done in about 45 minutes. Not more than an hour, with a 200% pot, farming endless Slayers out of the Grim Disturbance rare in King's Forest. And it's a practical way to get quick epic XP, quick Lobby XP. But I didn't want to do that for this video. I thought instead I'll talk about a practical thing to do at this level for important gear. And that piece of gear that's important that we're going to be talking about is the Pale Lavender Ioun Stone. It's this thing right here. Okay. Now, Ioun Stones, I've talked about this item before, can drop from any level appropriate content, but it's extraordinarily rare. You can, however, farm this out of the Dreaming Dark quest, and so it's the Dreaming Dark chain that I'm going to be doing as part of this episode. Every third completion of the Dreaming Dark quest gives you a random Ioun Stone on your completion list, on your reward list. So you just keep farming it out until you get the one you want. And don't farm it until you hate life. Do a run or two a day. No big whoop. And then when you finally get your Pale Lavender Ioun Stone, as I've mentioned before, make sure you do not use it until you upgrade it by putting it into the Dream Forge at the end of Dreaming Dark and putting in your whole Crystal Disc of Dreams in with it. You can get a whole Crystal Disc of Dreams from the end reward of Dreaming Dark as well. So as you're farming it out and you're looking at your end reward list, look for that Crystal Disc of Dream or Crystal Shards of Dream. You can use 6 Crystal Shards of Dream and combine them to a Crystal Disc of Dreams in the crafting device at the end of Dreaming Dark, the Dream Forge. This is the best heroic spell absorption item in the game. Great to have while leveling. So if you plan on doing, past lives, I highly recommend it. And that's one of my 3 pieces of spell absorption that I use at endgame. I recommend 3 pieces of spell absorption at endgame. My preferred pieces are Pale Lavender Ioun Stone, Mage Star, and Epic Elite Jeweled Cloak. I'll have to do this on Elite because once you're level 20, you can't enter a heroic dungeon on Reaper mode. So Elite is the highest difficulty that I can do this. I don't remember why I'm missing a slot here. don't know if I had a different buff in there or what. I'd have had like a wand of protection from evil or something. Sometimes I'll put one of those in the buff bar. See, my aura is not on as well. Chew them up, no problem. So one of my frustrations with the way Reaper affects, or being, like I said, you can't enter a heroic dungeon on Reaper mode once you're epic, once you're level 20. Yet on Elite, this is a level 21 dungeon. So if you're a little bit newer, there's kind of an awkward distinction between heroic level 20 and epic level 20. So even though this is literally a level 21 quest, it's like it's considered a heroic level 20 quest. So it's like base 19. So it's considered a heroic quest. Yet there are epic quests that are level 20, literally a level lower than this, that I could do on Reaper because they're base level 20. It's a little frustrating, that there's some kind of distinction between like heroic 20 and epic 20. It's important to be aware of those distinctions, in case you wanted to do certain quests on Reaper mode, knowing that like if it's it's base 19 or lower, that the highest you can be is 19 to do them on Reaper. Now this quest does bug out still to this day, and the way that it can bug out is by interfering with what the Warforged Titan does. So like thematically what you're doing is like you're like part of a memory of this. That's why there's like the funny glowing effect. It's like you're watching a memory but you're also interacting with it. I don't know, something like that. And if you interfere with like the way that it plays out by grabbing monsters aggro, the Ancient Warforged Titan might not advance the way he's supposed to. Most specifically, if the Warforged Titan here and the Storm Reaver don't engage with each other in the next big room. So what you're going to want to do is just hang back, maybe about right here. I like to get close enough so I can see what's going on, but far enough away that nothing's going to aggro on me. Now, if it ever bugs out on you, there's a couple of common ways that it bugs out. One is if you're doing this on Reaper mode, you can have a Reaper spawn where the Storm Reaver is, and then the Reaper gets the Storm Reaver's aggro, and it doesn't aggro properly on the Warforged Titan. So you'd have to go in and kill that Reaper. Another way is like the Warforged Titan can go up the steps, and then like they don't aggro on each other. And so if that's happening, what you'll have to do to try to get it to sort of get back in gear is that you can grab the Storm Reaver's aggro, and then he'll start, and then you run away from him up the steps towards the Titan. He's going to start trying to shoot you with his bow. And if you get on the other side of the Warforged Titan, then the Warforged Titan is like between, will get hit. And if you can force the Warforged Titan to get hit by the bow in that way, then the Warforged Titan will aggro on the Storm Reaver. Sometimes this seems like it takes too long to go, but hopefully the Storm Reaver will show up. There he goes. It's one of his lieutenants. Come on, Storm Reaver. This quest. Anyways, this quest is required to get out onto the Isle of Forgotten Dreams, which is where the rest of the quests in this chain are located. Okay, I was just not far enough away to see the Storm Reaver. So it looks like they are aggroed on each other. So hopefully... There we go. Now, if you're a little bit newer to this quest, like these mobs can really hurt. They do hit pretty hard for their level. They can get you. We're going to have no problem. With our high defenses, no problem. This is one that, if I remember correctly, we had to do at level 19 on Hardcore 6. And I had no problem with it even on the first lifer. Unfortunately, one, because I wasn't 100% familiar with how a Twitch feature worked, and two, because I kind of lost track of things, you know, during the time in which my mom passed, because I was constantly going to the hospital. I lost a lot of my Hardcore Season 6 material. I wanted to have it basically all saved, archived on Twitch. And the thing that I didn't know is that when you add a video or a past live stream to a collection, would it automatically archive it? Or would it still expire after 60 days, the way Partner automatically archived streams expire? I was hoping that when I put all of them in a collection called, you know, Hardcore Season 6, but unfortunately they still expired. And I managed to save a lot of them, but I didn't save all of them. So I really wanted to have that whole season there for you guys to take a look at. I'll put a link in this video description to that. That's a series you can watch on Twitch. I mean, it's not really a series. It's just an archive of all the live streams from Hardcore. But again, a lot of them were lost. Like half of maybe about a third of those live streams were lost. But that's a really good one to look at if you wanted to see how a First Life version of this build performs. And as I mentioned, at least in the last episode, I was very pleased with the performance. It was the first time that I've ever played this build as a First Life version and did some really cool things with it. And not only, you know, things that I was confident I'd be able to do, but were even easier than way easier than I expected. I thought certain things would be a lot more of a challenge, like tanking, you know, the Truthful One in Epic Elite Fall of Truth. I thought that would be pretty challenging, but it wasn't. I handled it with no problem, even on the first lifer. So here, if you want to save yourself a little trouble, you can grab this guy's aggro and take him down below. If you fight him up here, you're going to deal with trash. So just hit him once, getting his aggro. And then he'll follow you down here. Now this guy will drain your charisma and make you helpless real fast. So if you start getting charisma damage, then I recommend dealing with that immediately. Throw a heal scroll, for example, is an easy way to just get rid of it all. You can use Potions of Lesser Restoration, but that's only going to cure 1d4 or less in Reaper. And he drains a lot of charisma really fast. Okay, no sweat. Huh? That's awesome. What luck, as that Cozy and Ear Dweller happened to fall out of that while I'm doing this video. That's crazy. That has such a slim chance to fall from mobs or chests in this chain. But there is an optional that in the Dreaming Dark quest that commonly drops it in any event. Get my Essence of Nightmares. You can collect a bunch of those to make that Crystal Disc of Dreams I was telling you about. But, you know, you'd have to do a lot of these quests to get all those essences to have enough to make that Crystal Disc of Dream. So I recommend just, you know, getting it from the end reward of the Dreaming Dark. So the Cozy and Ear Dweller is an interesting little item that when it drops, What you didn't get to see, because my aura instantly killed it as soon as it appears, is that the Zekosian Ear Dweller actually appears as like a little bug. If you look very, very closely at it, it's actually a miniature. It looks like a miniature pink rust monster. And it makes a very strange sound as it's running away very quickly. It's like, it almost sounds like the sound that a throwing axe makes as it's hurling through the air. It's a very strange sound. And you have to kill the Zekosian Ear Dweller quickly before it runs away too far. If it runs away too far, it's gone forever. But if you kill it, a purple bag appears, and the first person to pick up the bag gets the Zekosian Ear Dweller, and that's this thing right here. It's a level 18 trinket, and back in the day, this was a highly sought-after item, but not so much today. And I do want to emphasize that the text is wrong, because it sounds amazing. It says this grants 100% bonus of spell damage and healing for 1 minute. Well, back in the day, that was incredible, but they changed the way spell power was calculated many years ago. And so what this does now is, I believe, adds a 25 psionic bonus to spell power. So it's a, 25 spell power clicky. But it has a quirk about it. It's going to give you a disease after that minute, and that disease, if it germinates for 5 minutes, you'll end up with these 3 grubs in your inventory, and you can eat the grubs to restore spell points slowly over time. It's probably not worth doing that by today's standards. I would say just get an epic ring of spell storing. Here's my epic ring of spell storing. That's another level 20 piece of gear that I probably should have mentioned. This is very easy to acquire and make now, and if you didn't know that, I'll include a video in link in the description of this video that shows you how to easily acquire and epify a ring of spell storing. It is very, very easy in DDO 2022, whereas this was literally, 1 year ago, it was literally one of the absolute hardest things to get your hands on. But they did away with the whole, the old scroll seal shard system, and they replaced it with a system that was much, much easier to epify things, and even acquiring your base ring of spell storing is very easy because you can just buy it outright from Messiah Imports in Zawabi's Refuge with antique bronze tokens. This quest will finish when you walk out this way. Boom. Okay, another thing I didn't mention at the beginning of the video was my epic destinies. Now that we're epic, we should be talking about those. Ooh, double slotted bastard sword. Any fans of bastard swords there are, so let's see if there's anything better on the list. Alright, we'll go ahead and take the bastard sword. So epic destinies, Exalted Angel, Draconic Incarnation, Unyielding Sentinel are my preferred epic destinies. I really like the healing that I get out of Healing Pillar, and the Mass Cure Moderate SLA is a big part of why I go here. I like the support healing that I get out of that. I also have Renewal, which is a small heal over time. So not only can I use on myself, but I can also help to keep other people healed. When I play, I tend to be very party-centric. I want to help out. And I have no problem, if I'm with a fairly competent group, we can, go without a healer and pretty high skull, and I can just, do maintenance healing with my Renewal and my Healing Pillar and my Mass Cure Moderate SLA. Let's see, we got some it's probably not going to look exact. All the stuff that I've chosen now, I'm probably not going to have at endgame, but you can only spend up to tier 2 at this point. So I'm just to use up the points to get some benefit out of them. I'm taking things that I might not have at endgame. So here I have +6 Intimidate is why I have that. Some fortification there. And +1 to all saves because it's tier 3. This is really important. I definitely will have this at endgame. This increased hate generation by 450%. Helps you maintain aggro when you're tanking. Knight's Challenge was a beautiful addition to Unyielding Sentinel when they updated the Epic Destiny system. This time last year, you could only be in one Epic Destiny. But they redid the Epic Destiny system. And Knight's Challenge, what it does is you spin around and throw your shield. It's like you're like Captain America. And You don't literally throw your shield. It's more of a thematic thing, but it, you know, it looks like it. There's a graphic of a shield flying off. And what it does is it grabs the aggro of anything you hit. So it's a great way to not only grab aggro via a ranged attack. It's not really an attack, but you know, you can grab a mob without intimidating it. You know, up to that point, it was just like you could DPS to try to grab aggro, but you know, hate taking or grabbing aggro and maintaining aggro just because with the DPS you're doing is not really a thing anymore, because you know you've got DPS tunes that are doing so much damage that your tank, which is built for defensiveness, just can't pump out enough DPS to compete. So that's why you need additional hate generation, because additional hate generation makes it so that any DPS that you're doing is multiplied for purposes of generating threat or hate. This just outright resets the aggro of the mob and directs it to you. And what's so wonderful about this is not only is it a way to grab mobs aggro from a distance, but, and this is a big but, the kind of but that Sir Mix-a-Lot would make a song about, this can also grab the aggro of mobs that you can't intimidate. So, you know, how about stupid twig blights or, you know, skeletons or, you know, just other unintelligent mobs like a golem or, you know, stuff like that you can't intimidate. You can throw this and it'll grab their aggro. And it's absolutely wonderful. It's like a tank's dream come true. And once we have it fully upgraded with Throw the Boom here, it then becomes an AoE. So it not only grabs the aggro of it, but also everything around it. And with Throw the Boom, it also has a stunning effect. So we are going to care about our stun DC by the time that we get this, or at least by end game, and you can really help out your stun DC with an augment. We'll talk about that when we get there. Renewal is a wonderful little heal over time. You can do a lot of maintenance healing with this. And there's my mantle, which I do have active. While the mantle is active, you get plus 15 positive healing application, plus 15% fire, electric, cold, acid, force, sonic, evil, and chaos damage absorption. You're also immune to mind-altering effects and compulsions, as per protection from alignment spell. You may now cast while raging, so that's why I can now start raging. I mentioned that we are the Beast-Tide Shifter, and that is the kind of shifter that doesn't have the ability to cast while raging. So if I'm raging, I can't do my bursts or cast any spells. Whereas the wild, or is it wild? I can't remember now. The other shifter, which can cast while raging, but that's a wisdom-based tree. So I really wanted the constitution-based tree for more hit points and for the more effective aura. Also, now that we're level 20, we have the capstone. This is a huge capstone. Gives me plus 2 constitution, plus 2 charisma, plus 20% competence bonus to maximum hit points, plus 10 universal spell power, plus 20 light spell power. And while your Eldritch Aura is enabled, you gain full base attack bonus, plus 10 melee and 10 ranged spell power, or 10 ranged power. So it's a very, very nice capstone, and you should very carefully consider, you know, what you lose if you decide to multi-class. That's a lot of hit points. Plus 2 count, plus 2 charisma, etc. Anyways, this enhancement lets me cast while raging. So now that I have it, I can go ahead and start raging and have no problem with casting spells and bursting. Some armor class, no longer fail fortitude saves automatically on a roll of 1. Spot, search, and reflex. I probably won't have that at endgame. And the healing pillar, which is an epic strike. All right, now that we have done Eye of the Titan, we can go here, which will port us out to the Isle of Forgotten Dreams. And now we can do a couple of shorties, reclaiming memories, and mining for ancient secrets. And then once we've finished those two, we will be flagged for the Dreaming Dark quest, the capstone quest. Again, I can only do it on Elite because I'm level 20, and a level 20 tune cannot enter a heroic dungeon on Reaper mode. I'd really like to see them change that and allow, you know, you to go into, say, like a base level 18 on Reaper once you're level 20, because a base level 18 quest is level 20 on Reaper. But again, in DDO, there is a distinction between heroic level 20 and epic level 20. Because of that distinction, you know, it kind of makes for this, what I call the dead zone. I think I talked about it in previous episodes, but again, forgive me if I'm repeating myself, because it's been months since I've worked on the main part of this series. But basically, after I hit Sharn, I'm more or less 20. Once I finish all of Sharn Chain 1, 2, and Cogs. And so everything after Sharn, any other level 16s, base 16s other than Sharn, and then all 17s, 18s, and 19s, basically, I don't even do anymore. Because, like I said, I've hit 20 after I finish Sharn and Cogs, and I can't go into a heroic dungeon once I'm level 20. I can't go into a heroic dungeon on Reaper mode. Like I said, I wanted to do this quest chain because it drops such a wonderful piece of gear with the Pale Lavender Ioun Stone. Well, the Banshee, the DC is good enough to have some effect right now. By end game, we're not going to be insta-killing anything. We're not. This is not a DC build, but it can soften mobs up, because even when it doesn't insta-kill them, it does level drain them, which makes them a little bit softer for everybody else to kill them. The Arcane Tempest on them. I can give them some tentacles for some additional DPS if I want to. I should have done that on the boss of the last quest. But I'm really out of practice playing this character. So I'm forgetting some of the things that I ought to be doing. Like having Shining Through on it at all times. That was Healing Pillar that I just used. It kind of has a column of light that comes down from the sky. Taking Symbol of Persuasion off my bar because I won't be using that. In fact, really, I can take Dancing Ball off because I don't have the DCs to support that either. Although it might have some effect. I mean, you know, maybe I will load it back up because the next episode, I'm going to be doing level 19 content as well. Here we're going to fight waves of mobs until the boss, who is straight ahead, finally activates. As I said in the last quest, you know, for a squishier tune, these mobs can hit pretty hard for their level. But the high defenses of this build will really help carry you through, where other builds might struggle going toe-to-toe with these. And now the boss. Tentacles, same thing. This guy can really drain your charisma fast. Arcane Tempest and Tentacles for added DPS on top of the burst. Just intimidated him, even though I'm the only person here. Just, it's force of habit. It can continuously intimidating mobs. All right. And that's that. All right, now we're going to go down below. And we're going to turn it in and pick up the next one. Advance it. And now we'll be able to go up here, up the hill, to mining for ancient secrets. We're going to pass a solo-only quest. This is raiding the Giant's Vault. It is a level 19 quest. It is solo only. It's the only solo-only quest beyond, like, base level 3. You know, those little ones in the harbor. Here's the quest giver. You do not have to do raiding the Giant's Vault as part of the Dreaming Dark Chain. This is another quest that the mobs can hit pretty hard for their level range. There are some war priests in here that can get really nasty with like comet falls and stuff. Bats, which can be extremely irritating for other builds, are a piece of cake when you got an aura, because it doesn't matter what way you're facing. Your aura is just going to hit them as long as they're anywhere near you. Am I lagging? Not sure what happened there. So if you want, you can try to avoid the Wildman Slave. You know, you don't have to kill them. If you hit any of them, they'll start attacking you. It's just easiest just to kill everything. But if you're role playing, you might want to avoid hitting the Wildmen. It's extremely difficult to do on an aura build, but there are going to be some quests where you're really wanting to not damage mobs, and then you have to switch to, you know, single target blast. If you were to do this, at, you know, on Reaper mode at like level 19 or whatever, those war priests become especially deadly. You're not as powerful at 19 versus 20. Plus, they're more powerful because it's Reaper mode. Ladder bug. Redo the displacement. Important part of your layers of defense. Displacement and big, concealment mischance. What are my effective hit points right now? 11,000. It's with displacement on. Displacement definitely affects your effective hit points. Effective hit points is basically like, I don't know how exactly it's calculated, but this is kind of an estimate of much damage you could take without all your, including mitigated damage or something like that. I think this is, as I mentioned before, a good build for newer players because the added survivability is going to carry you through situations where you might otherwise die. And as I mentioned before, oftentimes people have said, oh, I don't feel like I'm going to be tanking raids or anything, so, I don't feel like I need all these defensive choices, but I'm interested in the build. And I usually try to tell people, like, play the build as is the first time through. And then if for purposes of whatever you're doing, you feel like there's too much defense built into it, but if you like the build, well then just reincarnate and change things up the next go around. Or if you don't like the build, then you go play something else. Here there's going to be reinforcements that come as soon as the first crystal's destroyed, so if that's a problem for you, if you're trying to mitigate the flow of combat a little bit more, you might want to kill the red name first before, and kill all the other trash mobs before you break any of the crystals. But for us, it's not going to matter. It's just elite and we're level 20. These mobs are not going to hurt us at all. Okay, break the other crystal. And we're done. Not particularly good XP to be doing at 20. But like I said, this is something you can do if you are interested in farming out a Pale Lavender Ioun Stone or any other Ioun Stone. They all drop. They all can drop in the end reward of Dreaming Dark, except for the level 15 one that has like Vitality 40 and Heroic Inspiration on it. That drops from one of the Wayloon Prelude quests. Okay, so now I need to go back down to advance it. It's funny, this one gives you like a level 1 reward. It's coded improperly. Dreaming Dark quest bestowed. Or bestowed, whatever you like. This quest entrance is a little fussy. It's very picky on where you click on it. It can sometimes be challenging to actually just click on the quest entrance, depending on where you're clicking. Something to be aware of if you're new to it and you're entering. You're like, why does it keep saying the entrance is blocked? That stone skin effect, there was a new feature added, I think maybe even since the last video. So let's see. That would be under UI. Skin? Yeah, current. No. Appearance? Man, I don't know what it's called. Show? There's a way to turn off the visuals of that for yourself if you don't like the look of stone skin and bark skin and things like that. You can turn off the visual effect so that you don't see them. But I can't remember what that's called. Maybe I'll try to find it before next episode. This is a weird quest. Now, I'm not going to do the optional that I referred to earlier that has a decent chance of dropping this as a cozy nerd dweller. If you're not familiar with it, I'll kind of point out where it is, and I'll refer you to a video, and I'll put a link in this video description of a tutorial of this video, of this quest, that shows the optional. Anyways, it's right up there. So you would jump once the light gravity kicks in from there to there, straight up, and then over to the top there. There's 3 doors that you need to unlock. There are keys here in this quest that are hidden. One of them is like way up there on some platforms, and the others are way up on other platforms. You have to really use all your Mario skills to get up to them. Or if you have the ability to unlock doors with knock or melt lock or lock picking skills, or a bell of opening, you can just use that instead of getting the keys. And then you go up there, and it's a very strange optional. It's like some kind of weird Mario Warp World kind of optional, which is it's unique in DDO. I can't think of anything else that's quite like it. If you fall, you'll just go back to the beginning. But there's portals back in the beginning that can teleport you further along. So look for those portals. There's 2 different portals that will open up depending on how far along you've gotten. Once you clear all the mobs in each zone, light gravity will kick in, and you can jump up really high like this. And then when you get into a zone where there are mobs again, heavy gravity kicks in. These mobs will drain your charisma, so stay on top of it. If you get your charisma drained, then you'll go helpless. And that's no fun. And there's nothing you can do but wait for you to naturally heal over time. You will heal very slowly ability point damage over time. But you don't want to find yourself in that position because it sucks. Especially if you're soloing. If you're with a friend, well, you could just say, hey, I got to build, I'm helpless from ability score damage. And a little bit of advice there if you're a little bit newer. Sometimes you'll hear people say, like, hey, can you throw me a restoration? Or, hey, can you throw me a heal? Instead of, hey, telling people what their stat is. Telling them what their condition is. And that's a better thing to do, is tell them your condition. Don't tell them what the spell that you want. Tell them the condition. Unless you're sure, you know that's the right thing. Because some people might say, hey, can I get a heal? But that might not be the best choice for the person that's with you. But if you say, hey, I have stat damage, can anybody help me out? Or somebody might say, I need a restoration because they have stat damage. But somebody might not have restoration, but they might have heal scrolls, and heal scrolls will restore all ability point damage. So it wasn't really a restoration that you needed. It was just some way to heal ability point damage, and there's multiple ways to take care of that. Restoration might be necessary if you had negative levels, and a heal scroll wouldn't help with that. But if you just had stat damage, then restoration or heal would be an option. I just made a video, I don't know, a couple weeks ago maybe. It was called How to Get No-Fail Resurrection Scrolls at Endgame even on a First Lifer. So I think I'll link that one as well, where I show how even on a First Life tune, even on a non-charisma build, that just with, some easy, literally 6 pretty easy sources, you can get to no-fail Resurrection Scrolls at Endgame, and I think it's a really good thing to make a medium-term goal, to be able to throw Resurrection Scrolls, especially if you're playing high-end content. And, specifically content with death timers, like Reaper Mode and a lot of raids. Because when you throw a raised dead scroll at somebody, you're only raising them with 10% of their health. And you're kind of setting them up for failure. Because if they only have 10% of their health, they could very easily die. If there's a grazing hit or any kind of mob nearby, bam, like anything is going to take them out again, then they're right back on timer. But if you throw a resurrection on them, and you can get scrolls of resurrection in House J, then you're raising them at 50% of their health, giving them a fighting chance to stay alive. So, if you're not at no fail for resurrection scrolls at endgame, don't panic. You don't have to drop everything. But I think it's a good medium-term goal, that over the course of the next several months, you could make some adjustments and, maybe get some augments and things that can get you there. And, there's I mentioned 6 specific sources just as an example to get you there in that video. But all of those sources, you could substitute other things. And those 6 sources don't even include tomes. Like, this assumes no charisma, that you didn't put any points in charisma, and that you don't have a charisma tome, and that you don't have a use magic device tome. You can still get in DDO 2022 to no fail resurrection scrolls. Now, if you had a charisma tome and you had a use magic tome, it'd be even easier to get there. And I think a use magic device tome is a great investment in your DDO future if you're planning on doing a bunch of lives, because you're going to benefit from all that extra use magic device every life, helping you get to the UMD that's required for important scrolls like heal and raise dead and resurrection that much sooner. Now, you don't have to go out and get it for all your alts, just like Supreme Ability tomes. You don't have to get it for all your alts, but for your mains, oh yeah, I highly recommend it. Man, this guy's squirrely. Charisma damage, use a heal scroll to get rid of that stat damage. And we'll see if we can whale our way out of these guys. He made a save, but he still got a level drain. That's what those pink circles were that went down around his body. These mobs here can hurt too. You're going to get a mob floating in the air there, and then in each corner on that side, and they can throw Disintegrate at you. You're going to know when mobs are throwing Disintegrate at you because it looks like a green ray. They can also hit you with polar rays. There was a green ray right there. Little bastard tried to disintegrate me. And he just tried again. See the shadow on the ground? So I know that when I get shot up there, I won't get shot up too far because there's that pillar right above me. So I knew to stand here when that anti-gravity effect went into place. I'm going to have a few more mobs. I don't know why I had auto attack on there. A few more mobs here for the end fight. Charisma damage. Throw a heal scroll. Curse. Drink a curse pot. Gonna re-up my rage. It's probably worn out. There we go. This boss is a bastard. He can drain your stats really fast and make you helpless. So be very careful with this guy. It's really, really important that you stay on top of your stat damage. I definitely don't recommend trying to step up the difficulty too much. In fact, when you're farming out your Pale Lavender Ioun Stone, you could just do this on casual. I like to do my first run on Elite so I get full favor. But if I'm farming it out for a Pale Lavender or any Ioun Stone, I'll just do successive runs on casual. So he's stunning me and can make you helpless through stat damage. And yeah, he sucks. So be very careful when you're fighting this guy. Charisma damage, take care of it right away. Heal scroll. Exhausted. Lesser restoration potion will get rid of the exhaustion effect. I could have done heal scroll as well. A little bit quicker to drink a potion. Exhausted again. Drink another potion of lesser restoration. Arcane Tempest. Exhaustion again. Notice how many temporary hit points I'm getting off my aura. My constitution is 71 now, so that means my aura is ticking for 142 temporary hit points every 2 seconds. Now that we're epic level, that bonus is doubled. It used to be your constitution bonus, but now it's double a constitution bonus. That is a lot of extra. That is a lot of those temporary hit points ticking every 2 seconds mitigates a lot of damage. All right, just hit level 21, baby. And we're going to get the chest. That is the Dream Forge there. So when you get your Pale Lavender Ioun Stone, remember, do not use it until you upgrade it, because prior to upgrading it, it's a one-time use only. You would get your Pale Lavender Ioun Stone, just stick it in there, and the proper recipe will come up. Here's your upgrading your Ioun Stones. There's the Pale Lavender. You need the Crystal Disc of Dreams. And you can actually buy a Crystal Disc of Dreams outright if if it just doesn't drop for you and you're tired of waiting. Maybe you got lucky and you got your Pale Lavender pretty quickly, but you still didn't have the Crystal Disc of Dreams. I think you can actually buy one for like 50 shards. Yep, right there. Or you can have 6 of each of these essences to make a Crystal Disc of Dreams, or you can have 6 Crystal Shards of Dreams to make a Crystal Disc of Dreams. And that is Dreaming Dark and how to upgrade your Pale Lavender Ioun Stone. Great piece of gear. Definitely, for me, a top 10 piece of gear for any tune that I'm serious about. Highly recommend farming that out for your mains. And then once you complete Dreaming Dark 3 times, like I said, there will be a random Ioun Stone on your end reward list. You can even get Ioun Stones. I've seen them drop in the end chest, rarely. I've seen them drop on non-third completion reward lists. So keep an eye out there, and you also want to watch for, let's see if I get, Crystal Shards of Dreams. Sometimes you'll get a big stack of like 5, 6, or 7 of them, or you'll get a whole Crystal Disc of Dreams on the reward list. All right. Well, that does it for this episode. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, stop by the live stream. We have a lot of fun every day. This Twitch channel, Voodu Spice, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern. We'll see you soon.